I've seen lots of analyses about these banks, but the simple truth is that small undercapitalized banks are an anachronism in the age of monopoly capitalism. Marx taught that, and so did Lenin. Nobody has written about that as well as they have written. And the policy implication, particularly in a context where those small undercapitalized banks may well have liquidity problems, and then they simply go under. For a new idea, new in quotation marks, why don't we go towards an amalgamation of several of these indigenous banks to add to financial stability? And while we are about some new ideas, how can we have a discussion in Trinidad and Tobago and don't have any discussion about what new ideas we need to put in place for financial stability so that we don't have a collapse of CL CL Financial and CLICO and BICO, which together constitute for the OECS territories a liability loss of 17% of gross domestic product. It happened here in Trinidad and Tobago. Let us not have a discussion of new ideas with our feet firmly planted in the sky. Then, I give by way of an example. Of course, we have had a lot of social democracy and mixed economy discussion, the Washington Consensus on neoliberalism. And with great respect to my brother, or professor, who has given us the 5 ideas about the Caribbean, and it's good to hear that somebody from outside is confirming yet again what the New World scholars have written about and Ramphal has written about mature regionalism. And we all know it. He doesn't have to come and tell us, but we just don't have the will to do the things which we know to be right to be done. So the question of new ideas has to do as to whether we want to do the things we know to be right. For example, many of us have found difficulty getting here to the Caribbean. We have been talking, and we can't do anything unless we deal with regional air transportation. The university can't function. The institutions which my brother talked about in respect of empowering the regional institutions, the people from CARICOM and the central bank can't get from here to there unless we have a good system of regional air transport. But for heaven's sake, we can't get the governments of Trinidad and Tobago and the 4 governments which own Hyatt to sit down together to talk about CAL and Hyatt having one airline. Now, what about that as a new thought? It's an old thought which we know to be correct, but nobody wants to do it. Let us set up all these very good ideas. We can put them in whatever new clothing that we want. And it's important to do so if we have to preach to both Jews and Gentiles. And put them in new clothing by all means. But these are things which we can do and which we are not doing. Winston Dukaran has written very persuasively on convergence. Now, before he wrote, Eric Williams, Michael Manley, and Forbes Burnham worked with Mexico to try to do something marine energy with bauxite and to see if we can have some end products, alumina into aluminium. It fell apart. We haven't revisited it. We are talking about having all of these state-to-state relations, but we have opportunities existing for production, coordinated production, which neither the state sector nor the private sector taking advantage of sufficiently. We have a lot of money in Trinidad, so I'm told. We have a shortage of it in several other places in the Caribbean. But somehow we are not marrying them. What about a new idea that we marry the Trinidad money with a lot of skill from other parts of the Caribbean to see if we can enhance production? We import food, so much food. The import bill for food now, the CARICOM Secretary General will tell us maybe what, $4 billion US. We have a lot of lands in Guyana. We have a lot of workers, good farmers in different parts of the Caribbean. Why don't we produce some food and feed ourselves? That's a new idea. We have known all these things for many, many years. And I'm very glad that Winston Dukaran has put this together. I didn't come here to hop, skip, and jump on theoretical issues, which I could talk about, because I'm trained in that particular field. But as a practical man of affairs, I want to see jobs and wealth creation. Now, while we are talking about several other things, and I give snapshots there, I don't have the time to go into many of the issues. We have to, in generating newer ideas in different periods, doesn't mean that we have to abandon what we know to be truths. We have to define with clarity our vision, which is people-centered, and enhancing our possibilities and strengths, and reducing as far as possible our weaknesses and limitations. That's our vision. We have to have a philosophy. Well, we are all agreed on a core set of ideas surrounding social democracy. We can apply it here or there with a different emphasis. We have to have a socio-cultural framework for the further ennoblement of our Caribbean civilization. It doesn't make sense we have the debate that what is a civilization, we're not quite a civilization, and so forth. I affirm that we are a Caribbean civilization. I could debate that authentic one with a legitimacy and authenticity, and has a trajectory for further development. But central to that civilization, and these are truths which we don't often want to talk about. Hilary Beckles spoke this morning about self-confidence. I refer to it as self-mastery, because the issue of confidence has to be taken further. And we have to master ourselves in confidence that whilst we are not better than anybody else, nobody is better than us. And that is why I take such a strong position in relation to the regime in the Dominican Republic, the authorities in the Dominican Republic, for denying persons of Haitian descent their citizenship. We cannot be talking trade among ourselves, including the Dominican Republic, unless we help our brothers and sisters in the Dominican Republic to solve this question in the 21st century, which is really an abomination to discriminate against people on the basis of their origin. We had settled that question long ago, I believe. Notice I say to help them, but they have to be open to wanting to be helped. This is a family, and we have to speak things among ourselves and to speak truthfully. Now, this, in our civilization too, we have to acknowledge, and this subject has not arisen in the sessions that I have attended, and it's vital. There has never been a civilization which has progressed, which is not based on hard and smart work. No civilization has ever progressed based on leisure, pleasure, and nice time. I love leisure, pleasure, and nice time like anybody else. But the point is this: you have to produce goods and services to finance leisure, pleasure, and nice time. What about that as a new idea to say that laziness, intellectual and otherwise, is an absence of virtue? And when persons, I meet several born-again Christians. I'm a Catholic, and I believe I'm going to heaven. But I say this: I meet several born-again Christians who are lazy in their head and lazy with their hands. It is an absence of virtue to be lazy, and you cannot be redeemed if you only talk it, because faith is made complete, made perfect by works. What about that as a new idea? Not really a new idea, it's in the book of James. I want to now, it is important that we address the good governance issues, and the role of the state is vital. We have to take into account the deepening of our regional integration systems. That's occasion for further discussion, but I want to say this. When the countries of our hemisphere, of our Americas, outside of the United States and Canada, decided to form CELAC, I read a lot of commentaries by very educated people, including at our own university, making a critique of it. CELAC, what is it? You have the OAS. Well, the OAS was fashioned in a particular time for particular purposes, and it doesn't have the breadth of CELAC. And CELAC, the Community of States of Latin America and the Caribbean, it possesses the possibilities of deepening in a mature way the integration process in which several of us have spoken about. But we are not giving it yet the degree of seriousness that it deserves. And then within that framework, there are countries which have gone ahead in the Caribbean and Latin America to get involved in ALBA and Petrocaribe. And everybody is lining up to support the Americans against Petrocaribe and ALBA because they believe that the Americans are opposed to ALBA and opposed to Petrocaribe. And then Obama comes into the region, the head of the great United States of America, and says in his meeting with CARICOM, if I were in the position of you guys, I would have taken the Petrocaribe deal because it is a good deal and it would